Francesca Albanese, thank you so much for joining me today for a conversation. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure.
You are the United Nations Special Rapporteur for the Occupied Palestinian Territories, but you mentioned yesterday that you're not actually an employee of the United Nations. Can you explain how that works?
Yeah, no, people are surprised. Yeah, indeed, because these roles are normally given are voluntary, honorary positions. They're very prestigious, but they come as an extra responsibility on that normally academics or people who have already a job take. I've been working as a lawyer with an Arab think tank, and then I've been teaching. This is what I was doing. I had to reduce my job significantly since I took on the functions of Special Rapporteur on the Occupied Palestinian Territory. But then I had to go on a sabbatical since October last year, and it has been like that since. I don't know, I need to go back to work. But yeah, with the devastation that is occurring in the Occupied Palestinian Territory, what else?
I want to talk about that, of course, today, but I also want to talk about Canada. I want to talk about where we are right now and the work that you've been trying to do in this country while you've been here. Since 2011, this country has voted no, Canada has voted no more than 150 times at the United Nations on resolutions regarding Palestinian rights, right? And that's including calling for Israel to withdraw from Palestinian occupied territories. That includes reaffirming Israeli settlements are illegal and an obstacle to peace. And so Canada has been one of Israel's largest backers after the United States. Mm-hmm. What do you make of this pattern of our voting at the United Nations?
Let me put this in context first, and then we will analyze what I see happening in Canada. If you look at voting patterns of Western countries, primarily the settler colonial states, the US, Canada, New Zealand with some differences, but Australia, and increasingly so European states have been voting in a way that protects Israel, that shelters Israel from full accountability. Even when they don't, even when there is agreement that the colonies are illegal and must be dismantled, still, and this we move to the next step, still countries like Canada continue business as usual, their dealings with Israel as it has maintained for 57 years an unlawful occupation with continuous annexation of Palestinian land, expropriation, exploitation of Palestinian natural resources, not only maintaining its free trade agreement, not only really not stopping to aid and assist, to cooperate with this government. Because what you do is with a state that commits serious violations of international law, like the continuous assault on Gaza, the forced displacement of Palestinians on top of the colonies, the mass arrest and detention of Palestinians, including children as young as 12. I mean, the Palestinians have been under military rule for 57 years. In the face of all this, not only Canada doesn't cut its relations with Israel, doesn't impose sanctions, doesn't work to impose sanctions, it also allows its citizens to live in the occupied Palestinian territories, so being part of an unlawful endeavor. The thing that shocked me the most is that I learned that there are Canadians and Canadians organizations who sell Palestinian properties in the occupied Palestinian territory, property that has been expropriated to the Palestinians, from Toronto, from Montreal. I learned that the pension funds or la Caisse des Dépôts Québécois has billions of dollars invested in illegal businesses. I learned that Canadian charities are basically used for, according to a report that was issued yesterday by primarily independent Jewish voices, as money laundering system for the apartheid regime that Israel maintains. You see, there, on the one hand, there is this And then, on the other hand, this country, not different from what happens in the rest of the West, they repress solidarity with Palestine. And doesn't matter who's involved. Muslim, Christian, Jews, it's all the same.
You know, you mentioned some of the organizing that's happening here, Independent Jewish Voices and others that are uncovering these kind of relationships. The movement in general in this country has been able to, for example, force the liberal government here to freeze new permits for weapons, right, to Israel, and to suspend some of the permits that had previously been issued. But we're still allowing 90% of those exports to go ahead. And more importantly, there's a big loophole.
Yes.
For allowing unreported and unregulated export of weapons via the United States to Israel.
Yeah.
So there are dozens of companies, companies, for example, that provide essential components for the F-35 fighter jets that Israel is using right now. Those are some of the companies included in these like loopholes. And I wonder, what does international law say about these kinds of weapon transfers?
It's crystal clear. Okay. Because, we are not in normal times. As of January this year, let aside my 2 reports, which have concluded that Israel has committed acts of genocide in Gaza, let alone the assessment of other independent experts of the United Nations who have come to the same conclusions, let alone the fact that eminent legal scholars, genocide scholars, both from legal and history path, including Israelis, have concluded that Israel is committing genocide. Let this alone. There is the International Court of Justice, the World Court, the highest judicial organ of the United Nations, which in January this year has concluded that, without even going into the merits, that there is a plausible risk that Israel is committing acts of genocide. Therefore, it had to take a number of measures. Now, there are 2 proceedings for genocide before the International Court of Justice, one against Israel initiated by South Africa and one initiated by Nicaragua versus Germany. And in the latter, the court reminds member states of their obligations not to aid and assist a country which is plausibly committing genocide, including by stopping in its entirety the arms transfer. An arms transfer, again, it's direct and it's the indirect, and it concerns any materials, including fuels, including any strategic service, even intelligence that can be used for military purposes, direct and indirect. So I hear the concern of many responsible Canadian citizens who do not want to be part of this, who do not want to see their taxes funding a genocide.
You had a meeting scheduled with the Prime Minister's office, and then it was canceled, as I understand.
Not with the Prime Minister, with the Foreign Ministry.
With the Foreign Ministry, with Melanie Joly's office.
No, she had not responded with the head of the Human Rights and MENA section, which is not normal, let me say, because when a special rapporteur goes to, or independent experts of the United Nations goes to a country, he or she is received either by the foreign minister or by the vice foreign minister. There have been cases where I've been received by the president of the state. There are cases like here where there has been a lot of pressure on the government not to receive me. In that case, you have not the minister himself. You might have a lower level staff meeting the special rapporteur. I decided to go ahead nonetheless, because for me it was important to have this opening from the government. And still, after accepting the visit eagerly at the beginning of October, after 3 weeks, the section withdrew the invitation to meet me.
Has something like this happened to you before?
No. It does not.
I was surprised. I thought you were going to tell me that in other countries, maybe there's been a reluctance to engage with you and with your work, but nothing like this.
Look, I cannot name countries because I do not want to expose anyone, but even countries who do not have a relationship with this mandate. There are officials who have reached out to me, who have met me, and off the records there has been a frank discussion. This country has been special. But also what I find really appalling, and this is something that I will not forget, is that there has been a defamatory campaign against me mounted by the usual. Here, I mean, I keep on saying there is there is an army of genocidal minions working to shelter Israel from responsibility, to create an alternative reality, hiding what is happening, the fact that Israel has killed 45,000 people, 70% of whom have steadily been women and children. Now, the fact that people do not react to these numbers is because there is a racial bias. Palestinian life is less worthy. Palestinian life counts less. But 17,000 people is a monstrosity. It's something that is staying in our conscience forever. And in the face of this, there has been a defamatory campaign against me, as usual accusations. I don't even want to get in there. But however, never to engage with the substance of my reports. And following this, the government has backtracked. But before doing that, there is the permanent mission of Canada in Geneva, who has issued a defamatory statement against me. And together with France, Germany, the US, and of course the other states who are frankly supporting the genocide. Israel as it's committing genocide. And this needs to be retracted.
What do you make of the recent announcement by the IDF that they will not allow anyone to return to northern Gaza after everything else that we have witnessed?
My answer is, I told you on the 14th of October 2023, I issued a statement when Israel issued a mass evacuation order, which is a monstrosity in and of itself. It cannot be legal under any circumstances, because you need to ensure safety, shelter, food, access to medical assistance to people you evacuate. It is to be for a purpose, for military necessity, for a short period of time. What Israel has done has kicked out 1.1 million people out of their homes, including elderly, persons with disabilities, pregnant women, while they were being bombed. And they've been sent to places which were being bombed. This is all documented. Not just by me, but forensic experts, the United Nations, Israeli lawyers themselves. And 22 hospitals have been part of this evacuation. Now, whomever didn't leave was considered a terrorist affiliate, as an associate. So, but I said, 1 or 2 days after, I said, this is going to be the largest mass evacuation of Palestinians since the Nakba. And so it was, because I'm a scholar. My scholarship has been on forced displacement of the Palestinians. So I know that Israel, under the fog of war, takes the opportunity to forcibly displace the Palestinians in order to take the land. And they've said it, and they've done it.
Of course, journalists are not allowed to be inside of Gaza. How do you receive and vet up-to-date information? What are the sources that you trust and that others should be trusting to receive the most accurate information about what's happening?
Yeah. Look, humanitarian organizations still have their personnel on the ground. Me, my predecessor, Professor Michael Link,
Yes.
And others have been working with these organizations for decades. They are reliable sources. They are investigators and monitors. There are other international organizations, and I won't name anyone because they are in danger. And they are there, and they do confirm, validate. I do receive information on a regular basis. Sometimes I learn things from the media, first and foremost, and it takes hours before anyone can confirm or not. And in general, they confirm. And in general, it turns out to be worse than the first notice. People are not lying. People are are trying to tell us we are dying. They are dying, and they keep on sending out these messages like, see us, please, don't forget us. But I mean, look, the very sad thing is that indigenous people recognize this, suffer so much for what's happening to the Palestinians, because it's what, in a way, even if it's different, is what they have suffered. The killing, the blaming, the smear, the telling that they are terrorists, this is all seen. The taking of the land is at the end of any settler colonial project, and Israel is no different. And it's appalling that a country which claims to be reckoning with the past, which many in this country say that it's not really happening. I mean, in true honesty and coherence, but let this aside, a country like this is taking the side, is providing support to the country which is committing the first genocide of this century, and hopefully the last one.
My last question is, what are you taking away from your time in this country?
I loved it. Oh, I was received with such warmth. I know that people tend to focus on the few officials in Ottawa who didn't have the time to meet with me. That's okay. I think that the backlash has been so felt across the country because people were saying, why are you not listening to her? The point is that there's also been a lot of media coverage. There have been many public encounters where the rooms were packed. And these places where we have grieved together, while also talking of how things should be if we lived in a just world where international law is not just something that you learn on books, but something that you can practice. What has really uplifted me is to see how much people are ready to pick up the message and run with it. My very visit to this country bears testament to the bridges that must be built. I've seen people from Muslim communities working hand in hand with independent Jewish voices and other Jewish groups who have so much wanted my visit. And then, as I was saying, the indigenous people coming in and really embracing me and others who have been part of this journey, but also students coming together with workers and workers coming together with scholars. It's beautiful. We have this momentum to change the course of history, and we have a little hope that this is the only thing that remains in this darkness, and we need to follow it, hoping that we can make a difference. We don't know if we will succeed, probably not, but we have to try. We must try, for the Palestinians, for the Israelis, and for us.
I want to thank you for taking the time to speak with me today.
Thank you, Desmond.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you.